Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan McKee, Lieutenant Governor, and welcome to Community Conversations. Every Wednesday evening, we have a very important discussion about what's happening in the state of Rhode Island. You just saw a video that led into a petition that the small businesses are working with our office to get the attention of the governor's office that we need to be investing in our small businesses in the state of Rhode Island in a real significant way. So what we're going to do is we're going to put up the petition, how you can the link, that you can actually click on. And while we're on the show, or right now, since we launched it yesterday afternoon, we have close to 1,200 people who have signed that petition asking the governor to release the COVID-19 federal funds and allow that to go into grants into our small business community that are really, really, really in need right now. So if you're a business owner, small business owner, or you work at a small business or a family member, go to rismallbusiness.org/petition. Sign that petition. If you're a customer, you're relying on your local hairdresser or your pizza shop, your travel agent, go to that site. Let the governor know that we need to distribute the dollars in an equitable way to our small businesses. For those who don't know, the state of Rhode Island received $1.25 billion of federal money, COVID-19 money, and that money could, in the guidelines, allow those dollars to be spent to help small businesses who we required to close or abbreviate their operations to keep us healthy. And those dollars are being distributed in other states. And we're going to talk to one of the lieutenant governors that has the state has just put a sizable amount of money from that COVID-19 money in the state of Louisiana. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser is going to be with us. And Ben, just put up the headline if you can from the Governor Edwards. They just signed in Louisiana. Governor Edwards just signs a bill making those very, very funds that we're talking about, and we're petitioning the governor to release to our small businesses $300 million and we're going to talk to Lieutenant Governor Nungesser shortly about that. But $300 million in the state of Louisiana. We know $400 million in the state of New Hampshire, $300 million in Alaska, $225 million that's been made available of these dollars in Pennsylvania and Puerto Rico, Montana. The list just continues going on and on and on. And yet Rhode Island has not released those funds yet. And we need to make sure that we deliver a strong message to the governor that our small businesses matter and they're important to our economy in the state of Rhode Island. But I want to just start a little. If you could run the video and then bring the governor on, and maybe at the same time, if we could run that video. I wanted to introduce Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. He chairs the National Lieutenant Governors Association right now. He is a leader, had been a leader on national issues when he was a president of his ward in Louisiana, where they had a BP oil spill back in, I think it was 2010. We just had the 10th anniversary of that oil spill, and the Lieutenant Governor, the governor was a major player in making sure that the world knew what was going on, the country knew what was going on. Those resources were provided into the state of Louisiana to help out. Yeah, run that a little bit. I think I could run the whole thing. I think it's a good.
The sad thing about this tragedy is it could have been prevented. Today we stand here. We have yet to see a plan from the Coast Guard, a plan from BP, a plan to prevent it from coming in, a plan to pick it up, a plan to make our fishermen whole. It's absolutely, I don't know what to say anymore. The president's coming Friday. I blame BP and I blame the Coast Guard. Coast Guard could demand right now that those dredges be mowed in lieu of getting the permit. And the permit that so on that same Monday, a week ago, we were told days, not weeks. Well, once again, we were dealt an untruth by the Corps of Engineers, another group that gets paid with our tax dollars.
Yeah,
how much more are we going to put up?
I think that everybody gets the idea there. Hey, Governor, welcome to Rhode Island. Thank you for being here. That's going to bring back some memories.
Wow, it was a lot heavier then. And
A little heavier, but you're not in better shape today.
Yeah, that's unbelievable times, just kind of like we're going through now, but it's all across the country. So, Governor, thank you for having me, and thank you for your love and passion for your state. Your state's lucky to have you because you do all you can for the people, and it's a blessing to work with you.
Yeah, well, thanks for being here as well, Governor. And I think we got a lot to talk about tonight. I mean, there's many things going on with our health crisis. We've got the economic crisis that's going on, especially into our small businesses. The tourism issue, which is a big deal for Rhode Island and Louisiana. We share that platform, and yet we're stymied right now on that platform. But let's talk a little bit about the COVID-19 first. Ben, put up the masks put up the picture of the mask. This is what the governor has been out there, working on to make sure that people are following the rules, right, Bill?
Absolutely. We're, this is one of our masks, Louisiana Feed Your Soul.
Yeah.
We give these out at the Welcome Center as you come in the state. I'm also over the state parks. So if you come in a state park, you'll get a mask, or you visit one of the museums, which is under my office, you'll get a mask as well. And we encourage everyone to wear them for the safety of themselves and the people that are around, so we can continue to move through phase 2 and phase 3 and get Louisiana back open for business. So I understand today that these can be reimbursed through the FEMA process. So it's a great way to support the efforts to do it safely and get out there and be responsible.
Yeah, and you're highlighting the state of Louisiana when you're doing it, right? So that's good.
Absolutely.
I was doing a little bit of research on what was going on and what you're leading in your state today, and I thought those masks really were a good lead in into this COVID-19 issue. And give us a little update of what you're going through now in Louisiana and what you're projecting to, because we're all in this together, and our economy is interrelated. If we don't figure it out in every state in the country, we're not going to get back to a full economic, strength.
Right. We've seen in the last week an increase, and the governor last Monday was expected, or we had hoped would roll into phase 3, but because of that spike, he has extended the phase 2 for 28 days. Now, two to 3 weeks of data before he will change that. And if it gets better starting this week, in a couple of weeks, we could see move that date up to move to phase 3. A lot of the restaurants and shops, until we can really get back at full capacity, a lot of the big restaurants in New Orleans, for instance, will not open until they can take more than 50% seating. So it's going to greatly affect a lot of those businesses the longer we delay moving to phase 3. So as you mentioned earlier, we're going to see a lot of these small businesses not make it. So that grant money is so important to their survival.
It is, and that and it was interesting. Your General Assembly played a role in that, releasing those dollars to the businesses, right? I mean, they played some role of a bill that was passed in the Senate Assembly and signed by the governor to release that $300 million in a form to the small businesses.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got over half of the businesses in Louisiana employ less than 100 people, small businesses, and they don't have the deep pockets of some of the large corporations. So the legislature and the governor signed a bill to set aside $300 million to help with business expenses. It's a grant, not a loan, up to $15,000 per small business. And I believe if we're able to go through this money and get it to those small businesses, it'll help many of them survive. And I'll send you all the criteria. It's 3 pages long that goes with that you can share with your governor about what's the criteria for getting this money, because there was a lot of time and effort and research, much like you do, reaching out and talking to the small businesses to make sure it included as many of those businesses as possible.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking to them, Governor, and I am as well, and we know that they're very nervous. I'm a former small business owner. Your family's been in business as well. This is extremely emotional time for people who have built a business, think they might lose that business, think they might lose their home, think they may no longer be able to employ the people who have been loyal to them. And the list goes on, and then our local communities are being. You and I share municipal leadership roles in the past. That's going to impact our local communities to a large degree too. So, credit to you and your state to be stepping up in that way. Tell us a little bit about though just finalizing that COVID-19 issue. I know that our state of Rhode Island has been fortunate to be a state that is actually decreasing on the percentage rate of infection, one of the few. And I think that I do credit that to the fact that we've been very diligent with the mask issue, the hand washing, and the distancing. How's that working out for you? And the world that we're in today is totally different than it was in January 15th or February 15th, right?
Yeah, I think you got some people, several, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Jefferson Parish, the three largest parishes over the last 2 days had made the mask mandatory. And just like the people that defy the rules and don't wear a mask, you've got some people outraged that they're being told they have to wear a mask. Well, if you don't want to go into the businesses, you don't have to wear the mask, but it's for safety. And, we've seen 2,000 new cases yesterday in Louisiana. Yeah. And so if that continues, we'll be backing up to phase one, not moving forward. And no amount of grant money will help businesses if that happens. So in an effort to help these businesses stay open, get open, and people feel safe going out and shopping and eating and supporting those businesses, we've got to do it safely. So you've got people defying the rules and not doing it, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, and I think that's a good message that the people in Rhode Island are going to be listening to this. It's going to be taped. We'll have several thousand people that'll watch this before the week's out, and that's a real good message for us to deliver here in our state. Going backwards is not a good idea. You had to put a little bit of a halt on because of that situation. It sounds like you got it under control, and I hope you do. But for the people in Rhode Island, wear your mask, keep the social distancing, wash your hands, and follow the rules that, and so that we don't go backwards and we can continue to move forward. That's the message that all our lieutenant governors are delivering. And
Lieutenant Governor, we reached out to people like Lauren Daigle, a singer, Lane Hardy, a American Idol winner here from Louisiana. They've got millions of followers. We've asked them to please post on their sites to reach the younger kids that don't think they can catch this. And even if they catch it, it won't kill them, but they're bringing that home to their parents and grandparents. So we're trying to use these young people that are followed through social media to send a message out and hopefully reach our young people here in Louisiana and across the country, how important it is to all of America.
Yeah, so thanks for that. And I really appreciate the team that we have of lieutenant governors, Republicans and Democrats working together, leaving our signs at the door. That's what I did as a mayor. We got work to do, and we're getting it done. And you're an example of that. I did have Lieutenant Governor Bethany Hall Long on a broadcast with Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist a few weeks back, talking about what's happening in their state. You had a broadcast, and you're doing broadcasts like this in your state as well. I think what's the name of your program? You call it Talk. What's it? Talk. Let's see what it is.
Travel Talk.
Yeah, Travel Talk. You just started that a few weeks back, similar to what we're doing. It's a whole new world in terms of communicating. But you've been able to talk to lieutenant governors around the country as well.
Yes, and some good feedback as you get from your businesses. I'm going to be sending out something to all the lieutenant governors by the end of this week about some of the things that maybe we might want to recommend if there is another stimulus bill. One, setting some money aside for small business, maybe setting some money aside for tourism, There's a national Main Street program, which helps the small Main Street communities in the small towns all across America. They're wanting to, but I think we're going to have to really try to, as a group, make sure some of these things are identified if there is another stimulus package, because like you said, you get back home and you got to do battle with the governor and the legislature to try to get the money out to where it's needed most. And all the lieutenant governors seem to have a good feel for what's needed in the community. And maybe we can make some recommendations as a group to our congressmen and senators what's important to signal out for a pot of money in this next package.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We just sent, share with us what you have there, Governor, and I'll share with you as well. We just sent a letter to our congressional delegation, suggesting, that they got, I think there's like $130 billion still left on the PPP, right? And so we've sent a letter to our congressional leadership. Open that up to some of the businesses that didn't qualify for the PPP. There's many people who have a capital intensive type business. I was talking to one today. He actually does event promotions in terms of fighting in the game, and he's like, I don't know what the heck I'm going to do. So there's 130 billion, and then the other one is, I don't know if you're getting this too, but we have businesses that timed their business opening, had all their investments in, bought their buildings, all that work, invested in equipment, and opened up 10 days after the COVID hit, and they couldn't realize it. So we're putting together a list of people that got caught in the cracks, so to speak, and it would really be good and I'd love to hear some of your thoughts so that maybe we could put that in some sort of a resolution, through the Lieutenant Governors Association with Julia out there in Kentucky.
Absolutely. I think I'll get a copy of yours. I'll send you my ideas. We'll craft it together and get it to Julie to send out, because absolutely, if we can all hit our congressmen and senators with the same message, we got a lot better chance of getting something done in Washington.
Well, we'll follow up with that with you tomorrow, and I'm sure you will as well. And you're no stranger to our office either, Governor. The king cake comes in, and other things that you tie us in. You have a seafood festival. I want to talk about this tourism thing, but the seafood festival. Tell us about that. And before I'm out of the Lieutenant Governor's office, I plan to participate in that program somehow. Bring one of our chefs down there. But tell us about the tourism. Start with that seafood program that you've talked to us about.
Right. What we do is we get restaurants all over Louisiana to pick the best seafood chef in Louisiana. And then at the National Restaurant Show in New Orleans, we invite lieutenant governors and send a chef from all over the country. We take 15. We get international judges, food critics from the food show and different things, and they pick the king or queen of seafood. And Alaska's won it 2 years. Louisiana's won it. Texas has won it before, and they get to brag that they have the best seafood dish in all America. So it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of bragging rights go on, and some pretty incredible dishes with seafood from anywhere in America. It's just got to be domestic seafood, whether it's lobster from the East Coast or salmon up in Alaska, whatever you want to cook, you put your best dish out there. So we'd love to have you come down and participate.
Yeah, I thought we had it lined up a few years back, and then the governor kind of stepped in, and all of a sudden we had somebody from Rhode Island there that didn't even live in Rhode Island, to tell you the truth, but had a restaurant here. But we're gonna make that happen next year when we get back into a full swing for sure. And inside of the tourism issue, you head up the tourism issues in your state, right? In terms of like really working hard. Tell us some of the things you're doing and some of the creative partnerships that you developed, Governor, with private and public partnerships that you've done in your parks, which I think is very extraordinary.
Right. We've had our fourth record-breaking year in tourism. Last year, we had 53.1 million visitors to little old Louisiana. They spent $18 million and left behind $1.9 billion in taxes that Louisianans didn't have to pay. That's over $1,100 per family. Incredible industry, the fourth largest industry in Louisiana. But when I took office, the parks were in disarray. budget cuts every year. So we looked around the country and saw that some of the most successful state parks had a private-public partnership where you could come in, build cabins, do a rental split 80-20. We've moved horseback riding into our parks. We get a couple dollars a day. So we're offering new great amenities in the parks. And last weekend, we had our best weekend ever. Over 25,000 people visited Louisiana state parks. We now offer the fourth night free if you stay 3 nights in a cabin or campsite. The Lord, because people are going to travel by car and camper this year. RV sales are up over 150%. So we're luring people. Last weekend, we had a ton of people from Arkansas stay at the state parks because we offer that fourth night free. We're promoting that all over the country and getting those people in the drive market. All indications are that for the next year, most visitors and travelers are going to do it by car or RV. They're not going to take a cruise or get on a plane. So we want to market that drive market to Louisiana, as a lot of other states are doing.
Yeah, and we're the ocean state, as you know, and we got like 400 miles of coast, coast in Rhode Island, and we have a tremendous amount of tourism in our area coming in from all over the world, whether it's into Newport or Wesley or Narragansett, and then in Blackstone Valley, where I'm from, that's where we have the Blackstone River, home of the Industrial Revolution, where it was birthplace. So we have that right now, and we've been one of the things that we tried to do, and we launched a international economic ambassador program because we have a very rich community with people all over, that have networks all over the world, and we thought we'd be traveling into Japan and Australia and in Israel and all the places. So we've been doing these calls like this and bringing on tourism, the tourism from counterparts in other countries. They're going through the same thing that we are right now, Governor. The same thing. So comparing notes, and I think what you just said is we need to make sure that we're following your lead in terms of, I saw a video that you had on your website that you talked about the staycation strategy, right? Is that what you call it, the staycation?
Yeah, we're trying to get Louisianans to go see a part of Louisiana they haven't seen, share it with friends and family, and that has been incredibly successful. You go and have a good time. You're going to tell your friends and family, and we've seen a 30 to 40% increase in Louisianans visiting a part of Louisiana they haven't been to before. And as a matter of fact, Natchitoches had their best weekend in over 6 months last weekend. And 90% of those visitors to Natchitoches, the oldest city in Louisiana, were Louisiana residents going to take a staycation.
Yeah, and I think that's going to happen in Rhode Island. We're a little smaller, so we still draw from Connecticut, New York, and in terms of drive time. We've been fortunate because we had a 14-day quarantine for anybody coming from out of state in April and better part of May. We've reduced that now to no quarantine unless you're coming from a state that's having a spike in the virus. But boy, what an impact that's having on our tourism, though. The tourism and the and the travel agents that are in the tourism business. I visited a travel agent this past week, Governor, and they have given back a small office $1 million in deposits. $1 million of deposits, and have not booked any bookings since the COVID-19 hit. And so that's why we're really working hard, and I'm glad that you used to be able to support this business idea with that $300 million. And so this travel industry, the people who own a property that they rent out, some people, that's their business. They have 4 or 5 rentals on the water, and that's what they do. And those are getting canceled. We had 17 cancellations in the month of June, for the summer. What are they going to do? Are you getting that as well? Or
I tell you what, I've been able to work closely. I'm a Republican. I work closely with my Democrat governor. We have a great team effort, and he's done a great job. But we've kept him from closing our borders or quarantine people. As a matter of fact, Florida canceled all reservations several months ago from Louisianans that were coming over there because we had a spike and they didn't. Well, they now have a spike, as does Texas, but and they did the same thing. They were checking us at the state line and wasn't letting you in. So what I did is to kind of poke a little fun at it is I put up billboards in Texas and Florida. Floridians and Texans are welcome in Louisiana. You might not want us, but come see us. And so we've kind of poked a little fun, and we're welcoming people from Texas and Florida at our parks and at our museums, and come stay and do it safely. But we've welcomed them with open arms. Luckily, we haven't had to close our borders, and we've been able to do it by working closely with people, and that's helped us get a jump on some of our neighboring states.
Well, you've been able to reverse the trend. It's just recently that you're starting to see a little bit of, maybe relaxing. Maybe the people are relaxing a little bit, and hopefully they get serious about the masks and the social distance and the hand washing and just good health practices right now in this environment. Otherwise, you're gonna roll back like California is right now, Texas is right now. I mean, we're watching it all here from Rhode Island, and we need everybody to be healthy.
Well, I mailed one of these masks to the president, but I can't seem to get him to put it on. He's just defiant, and
he's got to put it on. I mean, we got to get our economy back, and it's proven on these calls that we're having with finance and then health directors and heads of the Israel's health, and they're talking about. We went to New Zealand, where Scott Brown, the former senator from Massachusetts, is now the ambassador, and his wife has been in the media. So we have somebody that's in the media on an international. Steve Aberson, who's in our International Economic Ambassador Program. We had a conversation with New Zealand. The ones who are taking this really serious, they're not getting the death. They're not getting the infection rate though. So hopefully that's going to happen throughout the state, throughout the country. And I do hope that the president, actually leads the charge there, because the things that he does impacts behavior. There's no question about that.
Well, it's absolutely right. We've got state legislatures that for some reason won't put that mask on. And it's like it's a political statement, and it's not. It's all about safety and looking out for your neighbor and doing the right thing. So unfortunately, you're always going to have that, and those are people that don't want to comply.
Yeah, and at least we're getting some national leaders in the Republican Party and the Senate that step it up and say, look, this is not an embarrassment to be wearing a mask. This is actually a badge of courage. Let's put it on, because if we don't, we're going to deal with this in a way that is not going to be good for our economy. And as I said many times, there's going to be many, many people that are going to suffer a great deal emotionally and stress-wise, financially, unless we get it right.
You're absolutely right.
So one of the things that you did early on too, which I've been asked, given the advice from people in the commercial banking business that I'm very friendly with very early on, is that you partnered in with local banks to create a loan program. I don't know if that's still existing, but early on, you were able to partner in with like 14 different banks and get a good amount of money on the street for these small businesses. Is that still active, or could you tell me a little bit about that if you know anything about that?
Yeah, what we did, the governor's team, and we reached out in a lot of communities. Some of the banks were not participating in the loan program. So we made sure to go out and identify banks in every community around the state in those local areas that would accept that loan program and work with them quickly to get money in the small business hands. And I think because the governor's office and my office called where some of them weren't going to participate, we talked about how important it was to have those local banks participate in all those communities all over Louisiana. And we were very successful in getting a lot of the small community banks to get into that program and work with the local businesses.
Yeah, another credit to Louisiana and your leadership, Governor Edwards' leadership. I was told that we should gather all the CEOs of all the banks that do business here in Rhode Island and sit them down and say, look, we're going to, we'll do a Rhode Island guarantee strategy with the banks. Now we're hearing from our SBA director, Mark Haywood, that the SBA actually could come in on that guarantee and then loosen up, in our state, $1 billion. I think we could loosen up to these small businesses, because we have not seen the crisis that is coming. We have a tsunami on the way because these businesses are like just living on savings. That's going to go away, and then a lot of these businesses are going to need favorable loans to actually keep them alive, to keep our economy alive. So you got to step ahead of it. I'm going to really take a look at that and give you some information on that.
I'll share everything. You've been in small business, so you get it, and your businesses are lucky to have a champion like yourself. Many of the legislators, governors that have never been in business, they don't even understand why and how this is so important. The loan, the grant programs, you almost got to sell it to them to get them on board to move forward. And sometimes I think you should have been in business to be an elected official, so we don't have to train and sell those politicians how important this is to the whole economy.
You're right on target, the governor, because there is an education process, and if you're not there and we're in a crisis, what are we going to do? And so anyways, I really thank you for being here with us. We're looking forward to the visit down there. We're looking for you to visit up here. We want to show you some of the things I've worked on in schools. I know New Orleans was actually an inspiration for me when you recreated some of your school models there, and we use that here in Rhode Island with the mayoral academies that I helped start. We're closing learning gaps very quickly, and so let's stay in touch. We're going to be doing this through this virtual process, but eventually this is going to be over, and we'll be back, really working hand in hand and right around that table with the NLGA.
And I thank you very much. And one question, someone I saw pop up. 53% of the businesses in Louisiana are small businesses. So it is a greater part of our economy, as I know it is there. And anything I can do to assist you in your efforts, my friend, as I said before, your state is lucky to have you. Not every lieutenant governor has the love and passion for their people as you do. So God bless you.
Right back at you. And that's why I showed that clip. And you are down a few pounds. But that clip showed that how engaged you were as a local president of a council, and you did a remarkable job there. And I know that you understand. You've got a Democrat governor. You've had President Obama, President Bush, President Trump, and you are there for the people and trying to get things done and working with any leadership that it gets elected. And that's a credit to you, Billy. So thank you so much for being here tonight. We'll be talking.
Thank you, Frank. God bless all y'all. Appreciate it.
Right back at you. See ya. Well, that's a great leader, and I wanted to share that with you because I want to tell you that this is not a fairy tale about our petition, and Ben's going to put that up there again so that people can see where they can go and sign that petition to get the governor's attention. Louisiana, $300 million going to their small businesses. They capped it at a $15,000 amount. That's going to go to thousands and thousands of businesses. We can do the same thing here in Rhode Island. The petition says put 10% towards small businesses across the board, whether you're in Forster, Gloucester, or in Westerly, or you're on Broad Street in Providence. Let's spread it around the whole state of Rhode Island. You know that I've said this forever and ever. 39 cities and towns, everyone's important, and the communities that make up our 39 cities and towns are important. So this is the small business community is an integral, very, very important part of our communities, and yet we're not investing in them in a way, and the governor has the ability. Let's follow the other governors in the rest of the country. We've shown you the examples. It's a real case. And I also want to say, inside the guidelines, those dollars, it says, are recommended to be used to help those small businesses that have been impacted by the COVID-19. In those guidelines, it says that states cannot use those dollars to fix budget holes that pre-existed before the COVID-19. So let's get the money out on the street. That's going to help all of us. So thank you very much to Billy Nunga's Lieutenant Governor in Louisiana. As you can see, he's very dynamic and a really good leader. And being involved with that association it certainly has been very helpful to me and the state of Rhode Island, because we learn a lot. And we're going to follow up with some of those tourism issues and connect our tourism industry in with New Orleans and into Louisiana. Right now, I want to shift. It's a very important piece that we've been following for the last several weeks. It has to do with the disparity. We talked with one of the lieutenant governors of Michigan, and we know we have a disparity in the infection rate here in Rhode Island on the COVID-19 and our communities of color and also some in our low income areas. So this is something that's been an ongoing discussion about equity issues, and whether it's in the education or whether it's in the it's in the health area, or whether it might be in the different policing issues. We want to make sure that Rhode Island is this place where people feel safe and they can live here. So our next guests are coming in from what's called YouthBuild, and it may be new to some of you, but I want you to listen. This is a great organization in Providence that helps primarily young boys of color. And I want to have Anthony come on, Anthony Hubbard, and the chair of the board, Bob, come on, please. We really appreciate you both being here tonight. And I want to just set up the talk here about. I read, and you shared with me, Anthony, an op-ed that you wrote that just was published about a little over a week ago. And tell us a little bit about, first, let's talk a little bit about you and YouthBuild, and Bob and YouthBuild. But I also want to, and then we'll get into that op-ed. But kind of introduce yourself, Anthony. You and I have talked several times, and I certainly support your mission, and whatever I can do now or in the future, we want to make sure that organization continues. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into your op-ed.
Yes. So for those that don't know me, my name is Anthony Hubbard. I am currently the CEO of YouthBuild Preparatory Academy, Inc. YouthBuild has been in Providence for the last 23 years. I joined the organization back in 2005 after a 15-year stint in the banking world, and then I made a decision to work with urban youth. I'm originally from Rhode Island. I am a native of Philadelphia, came to Rhode Island in 1992 to attend college, and just really fell in love with the community. And have been here ever since. And my work is really centered around improving the life outcomes of urban youth, to the fact that I published a book back in 2014 called The Tale of Two Americas. And given what's happening with the country now, very timely, but it's really around the social emotional development of young men of color.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony, for being here. And Bob, introduce yourself too, I believe that you're the chair of the board now.
Yes, thank you, Lieutenant Governor, for bringing this our organization and this issue to our community. My name is Robert L. Bailey V. I've been a board member with YouthBuild since April 2019, and I was asked to be the executive chair of the board in January 2020. I'm a native Rhode Islander, 4 generations, and I am a former student of the Providence Public School System and a University of Rhode Island grad. Yeah,
Bob, and I think that was one of the last events that I attended, right in January, right at YouthBuild, and until this whole explosion happened just a few weeks after that. But I do want to talk about the op-ed, Anthony, that you wrote and why you wrote it, and then I want to talk about certainly the history. But also, from the point that I became aware of some of the struggles that you're having, getting the attention that you deserve from our local leaders, in terms of the funding that has been withheld because you had approvals from the General Assembly to open a school, and I think that was the crux of your op-ed and the backdrop, as you said, of what is happening here, and in terms of the Black Lives Matters issues and the Minneapolis issues and the policing issues, but also you tied this in to this education issue. So tell us a little bit why you wrote that op-ed, and then we want to get into an open conversation about what you need and how we're going to help you solve your needs. There's the op-ed there.
Yeah. So, I wrote the op-ed because I felt obligated to give voice to an issue. And so, even titling it like What Matters is what we do next. Because in the recent uprise of the Black Lives Movement, what we have learned as a country, or what some of us have learned as a country, is that our Black males, for lack of a euphemism, are endangered species. And not just by bullets from a police officer, guns, but there are systems of oppression that are affecting their life outcomes. And when I was going through school in the 70s and the 80s, one of the things they were saying was, education is the pathway. And that, if you had a strong education foundation, that you would have options in life and that you can pursue life. And that's fair for a lot of people, but, Black folks or folks from urban communities don't have that experience. And so when I wrote the piece and I found the connection, I was like, we can't talk about Black Lives Matter in this one context. We have to talk about Black Lives Matter in a full picture. And so that's what the impetus of that was about.
Yeah, and Bob, your reaction, your support to that op-ed, I'm sure you've read it. I'm sure the board read it before it went out, and you obviously, as a chair of that board, felt as though that was timely and important to share with Rhode Island and the leadership in Rhode Island. So tell us just a little bit why you felt as though that op-ed was important to come from your organization at this moment in time.
Oh, absolutely. I actually thought it was overdue, long overdue, to give some voice to the situation that's the educational situation that's oppressing Black and brown populations, not just here in Rhode Island and in Providence, but nationwide. I thought Anthony did a great job. He hit every point that needed to be exposed. As a board member, we pretty much encouraged him and gave him our full support to lend his voice, to make the community aware of what YouthBuild Prep Academy's goals are, and is in the population that we plan to support and educate.
Yeah, and Anthony, I want the people to know that watch this and share this, is that YouthBuild organization is really at a critical point right now, and federal funding that has supported the program. That's why you went to get a charter, approved in the state level, which you did. But tell us why, the critical point that you're at right now, and then we're going to talk about how to solve that problem. But clearly, you're in a spot where you didn't know, you weren't clear whether you're going to be open in a year from now.
And to be honest with you, Lieutenant Governor, it was disappointing to find out that when YouthBuild needed the state and the city the most, that the state nor the city stepped up. It is definitely true that we went through a period of time when we were unfunded through our federal appropriations to the YouthBuild National Grant. And so we were looking to fill that gap so we can continue to serve the young people who were already enrolled in our YouthBuild Workforce Development Program, YouthBuild Providence. And no matter who we talk to on state and city levels, no one came up to try to help YouthBuild make it to close the gap to continue to serve our young people. And I think what happens is that folks that are in positions of power that could have done something confuse conversations. Where we have this 23-year-old program that have graduated over 800 participants, have built countless numbers of affordable housing units, and provide service to the community through our service learning component. That was the part of our organization that we were trying to make sure that the young people could see it through and attain their industry recognized certification and their high school diploma. While we were still trying to negotiate getting the school open that was authorized by the Rhode Island General Assembly back in 2016 and signed by the governor in front of the young men who advocated for us to create a school for them because they felt that their needs were not being met in the traditional schooling system in Providence. And so, there were points and times where we did not know that if we was going to show up the next day and be able to continue the services to these young people. And if that didn't happen, what would happen to them next? And we know that, the criminal justice system and health equity issues and all those type of things come into play when the individual go through life without at least having a high school diploma, and definitely not with viable work skills that could put them to work so they could earn a decent living. So I can't put it any other type of way to the fact that it sent a huge sign to our organization that we could not depend on our state, whereas in years we have brought in federal dollars in the millions that created jobs and created opportunities for young people and jobs for adults and investments and stimulated economies. And 1% of our budget really makes up local investment.
Yeah, and I think you make a very good point there too, Anthony. You've proven out to be a successful organization. There's many people who are trying to start something from scratch, and timing's important on that. Sometimes it's risky to invest, but you're not a risky investment at all, right? You've sustained over a 20-year time frame. Other economic downturns. Real estate bubble downturns, you own your own building, you're not a risk. And what was your ask? I think that I know what your ask is, but share with what your ask was. It wasn't that a lot of money, and it was looking for the host community to sign on to a commitment and fund out of local revenues a small amount of a fraction of the cost, and the state was covering the rest. That's my understanding.
Yeah. So our gap that we was trying to cover was $225,000. And when you look at the scale of that in a state or a city budget, is really not a large amount of money to invest in young people.
Yeah, I can tell you from and thank you, Gloria, for your comment. I was a mayor. A budget significantly less than the city of Providence. And if I needed to find an equivalent, because the budget there is about 6 to 7 or 8 times larger than the Cumberland's budget. When you talk about $200 million, that'd be like me finding $15,000-$20,000 in the $80 million budget that I had. It's peanuts. And also, to me, what's disturbing is that, we have this COVID-19 that is really highlighting many of our, problems, right? Many of our structural issues that we're dealing with. You've been aware of those for years, as has Robert. I don't walk in your shoes. I've never said I did, but I have lived with this issue for 20 plus years as well. So very aware of the structural issues that we're dealing with and the inefficiencies and the inequities that are happening in our schools. Maybe this is the moment. Maybe this is the moment where the public sees what you've seen, you've lived, Bob has lived. I've seen through my eyes, not through yours, but through mine. Maybe this is the moment. So what do you think the plan is, Bob and Anthony? What is the ask right now? And the people who are listening, what do you want them to hear about how we're going to make sure that, you got as many as 100 young kids, young men that you're helping every single year, right? That's not a big investment, what we're talking about here. So what is your thinking right now as a board chair, Bob, and also as the executive director, Anthony, about how we're going to move from this point in time, move from that op-ed that Anthony published, put out there for the public to see?
Yeah, so what the ask would be, and it's separate from the conversations we tried to have with the state around the YouthBuild program. YouthBuild, I made a promise to a room full of young Black and brown male faces that when they asked for someone to create a school for them, and we said we would do everything in our power, and we did. And the legislation passed, and we have the legislation on the books. We can't fulfill that promise because there are folks that are in power that have the authority to sign a MOU. Is all that we need in order to be put into the state's budget, just like any other charter school or any other public funded school. And so my ask is that the governor, the commissioner, the superintendent of schools come to the table. Let's figure out how to do this so that it wasn't just YouthBuild that made that promise. When the governor signed her name on that bill, she in essence was making a promise. The General Assembly did their part. And so let's fulfill our promise to these young people, because they have went through life over and over with empty promises, where their needs are not being met, where they have constantly been disproportionately affected by school failure, suspensions. We all know the stats and the numbers. And so that's my ask to the Rhode Island community, is help us speak up and speak out so that we can actually do something for these. Our school will be open to all, but we will be focused on the unique needs of males of color, so that we can ensure that they will have an opportunity to live what all of us want to live, a fulfilling life, right? And have the opportunity to explore life, make decisions, and pick whatever career pathway that they want to go on, and, luckily live to a old rightful age. Because if we don't, the recent events have showed us that we are losing. And we're not just losing them out of a system, we're losing them in life in general. And so, and I'm sorry that I'm so animated and passionate about it, because, this is work that we've been invested in. And I can't, there's already a target on their back, and then we're putting a price tag around their neck. And so we're telling them, each year that we don't open this school, we, the state, the city, are telling them that they don't matter. They really don't matter. So when people say all kids, they're not talking about the Black and brown boys. They're not talking about the indigenous boys. They're talking about all kids that, conform and do well, they matter. But if you experience challenges, if you can't function in the traditional system for whatever reasons, if life gets in your way and whatever happens, you're not included in that all. And so, I can't put it any other way than say that, we need to really step up and do something before we lose it.
Thank you, Erica, for your comment there. This is something I know you're passionate about. Bob, weigh in a little bit on what your ask as a board chair, and then I do want to, put my 2 cents in here based on my experience as well. But please share with us what your ask is right now of the state of Rhode Island.
Well, our ask as an organization is that state government and local government partner with YouthBuild Prep Academy so that we can do some damage or put a dent in the disparity and disproportionality of the dropout rate, the suspension rate, and the expulsion rate of Black and brown males in our school system statewide. That's our ask. If we can partner with local districts and state government, get the proper funding and all of the wraparound services and support we need to pull these young men up to grade level, up to a educational level where they can be successful and move on in a trade or in higher ed, or just to feed their families. That's what our ask is. We need state government and local government support, financially, socially, educationally. That's the ask.
Well, if I was a mayor of the community that you were in and you needed that signature would come very, very fast, because you're doing the work that you need to do. And so, that's why I wanted to have you on tonight. We still got a few more minutes, but I do want to just share, why I'm committed to this. And certainly Anthony and Robert, anything that we can bring to the table to help, as you get moving ahead in terms of what a good education model looks like in terms of helping these young men. You got me, and any of the resources that I've been fortunate enough to have, and the professionals that I've been fortunate enough to work with. But I coached a team of a very diverse group of kids for many years, and when it was, and I saw the bumps in the road, and I saw the dangers that some of them were living in, and the poverty that some of them were living in, and the impact that was having on their education. And when it came time for them to go to college, after one of them spent, a time at the, with the training school for a senior year, and Um, it was very discouraging. So I did do something about it as a mayor and a mayoral academy, and you can take a look at what we're doing with people of color, and that's in those schools, those 3 schools, one in Blackstone Valley, one in Woonsocket, one in Providence. They're now ranked in the top 10 schools in the state of Rhode Island, and they're drawing from the very kids that, you know, are failing, you know, that our system is failing. So we don't need any more mayoral academies to prove the point that when we had our approvals, and I know what you went through, Anthony, to get an approval. What we heard from school leadership that certain kids weren't going to learn at certain levels, and they didn't have the ability, and it had a lot to do with color of their skin. It had a lot to do with incomes, mom's education, and so the team I coached, several of the young kids really did well. This past weekend, I went to a funeral of a young man that spent 8 years in the federal prison, and smart kid, killed on a motorcycle accident. And I'm there knowing that what a waste. The kid was unbelievably smart, and yet when I kind of said drew the line, I can't go any further with you, right? You know, you come to that point a lot of times, right?
Yeah, you do.
You know, you either got to change your behavior. I can't be with you. He basically politely said, and he always was, I don't have a choice. This is where I got to go. And it was a waste. So when you start talking, Anthony, about the people that you're going to help and the people you've already helped, I think this is a sin. It's an absolute sin. And I'm happy that you're here talking about it. I just had one of the friends that is very involved with education. She's going to want to talk to you and highlight in articles that are going to be read all around the country and all around the state of Rhode Island. That's why we have you on here. You share your networks with us. We'll share our networks with you. We're going to figure out how to make this happen. So you got closing comments, Anthony. I just kind of told you why I'm in. I'm all in because I've worked with these young kids and I know who they are, and they mean something to me. And they should mean something to every leader in the state of Rhode Island. As I said earlier, when the lieutenant governor from Louisiana, as they came out, we got 39 cities and towns in the state. Everyone's important. Everybody lives in those communities important. The communities that make up those communities are important. And YouthBuild is part of those communities that makes up the community. So we need to support them. Anthony and Bob, you got the last word.
So my last word is, you can't think about reform and innovation without rethinking the system. And in order for us to educate these kids, we got to rethink the systems that are at play. And YouthBuild wants to be a critical partner in those discussions and not a competitor.
Yep. Yeah, and I think that we need to get over the competitive stuff. Every young person that lives in our communities is entitled to the very best that we can give them. And adults who are trying to compete and freeze out others that can do the work well, we need to actually, go around them, as I have done in many cases, and make sure that we do the best for the families that live in our communities and the kids that live in those homes, right? Bob, you get last word as well.
Kudos to Anthony, to the YouthBuild staff, who doubling times that have worked triple overtime to see that the population of students that started with us this year will complete what they started. I can't commend them enough. But one last thing I want to say is that, Anthony, the staff, and the members of the board before me saw a need in the community, and the students that weren't successful in the conventional school system in Providence and surrounding communities expressed what they wanted and what they needed to be successful educationally. The need was visualized, and we need to follow through with our commitment to these kids.
That's a good way then. Thank you for both for being here. We'll be in touch, Anthony. I'm not going anywhere. I know you're not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for coming and talking about this very important issue. Appreciate it. Yeah. So, that's an important story, and we need to know about it, and we need to make sure that we do something about it, especially in the backdrop of what's going on right now. We're saying Black Lives Matter. Well, let's show it. Let's prove it. There's a great program, 20 years, the transition into a school strategy. You saw that their ask is not a lot of money. but the upside of that investment is huge. And I know it is because, we all live with, with friends and family that need a helping hand and they got skill and talent, and they got to give you that opportunity to do it. Anthony YouthBuild does that. Let's make sure we're supporting them. Finally, I would just say again, I'll roll back to another important issue is the business community, small business community, made up of all different communities, right? Whether we've had the Lisa Ranglin on here, and she's the chair of the Black Business Association. We got the Hispanic Business Association. We got the Misquamicut Business Association. We've been talking to the Forster Business Association, as well as all around the state of Rhode Island. Our small business need our help. Please go to that petition, sign that petition, and then we're going to deliver that to the governor. And our idea is to get several thousand people on that petition so that we're showing strong support for our small business community. They need us right now, and there's an opportunity for everybody that's watching and listening to this program. Share that link, rismallbusiness.org/petition. Go and sign the petition. Share it with your friends, and share it with the businesses in your community. Share it with your municipal leaders. Share it with your General Assembly members. They all should be signing on to this as well. We all have a stake in this, and our economy is so important. We're not going to be able to support a youth bill unless our economy does well. So we're all in this together. So until we see each other next week, I want to just thank everybody for listening in and watching the show. A lot of valuable information. If anybody needs any help on issues that with COVID-19 or things happening in their community, in their lives, they can reach me at 222-2371. We answer our phone, and we return the calls, and we follow up. We pride ourselves on it. You've met many in my office, the people that work with me in my office, and we're there to serve you. So use us, call us, and we'll keep you up to date on the important matters that we're living with. Okay, thank you for joining the community conversation.